think this is very impressive because of after, you talk about, his accident or his attack and what happened to him.
Yeah.
My wife went through a lot of shit with me, obviously. And I was very lucky as far as never being seriously injured, but just being deployed and being a spouse and then having an injury and finding out, can you talk anything about, because we do have spouses that listen. And I think we have a very big supportive, this podcast supports that as well. And how you got through that initially. My wife, she got through a lot of shit with me, just not knowing, and then finding out. And then like, so can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe offer some words of encouragement for those spouses or those relationships of first deploying, and granted you're deploying too, really, and essentially, but then when you found out, when the attack happened and you found out what took place, how did you grind through that? How did you continue to get through and just be positive for him, even though, being in the special operations community, being the alpha male, we're not alpha males. We're the biggest pussies in the world. So can we say that? Oh, I'm not supposed to say, I'm sorry. That's, but
you can totally say that.
I know.
I'm not PC offended.
I know.
I'm not PC offended.
But how did you my wife has pumped me up, got me going when I couldn't get myself going. And I'm sure there were times like that, and you don't have to go into detail, but I know there were probably times. How did you keep him going? How did you get him like, hey, get through this. Remember who the fuck you are. And that's what my wife said. Remember who the fuck you are.
It sounds like I'm a lot like your wife,
Yeah, she's a pain in the ass too. And she wore lip gloss first time I met her too. I remember. Yeah.
I think like when I first heard Marty was wounded and, and then I found out that he had at that time, I didn't know, right? He was in armed combat in Eastern Afghanistan.
Sure.
And he was the one that actually called me. And what was interesting, it was right before they moved him for surgery.
Sure.
And he had craniotomy. Marty my dog is like going to chew off my finger while I'm telling this story. I'm sorry. She's evil. She is really evil. I have to put her down. She's a Chihuahua. That's why.
They're the best guard dogs ever though. Cause they're always there. They know what's going on. They're better than the alarm system. Awesome.
Yeah,
dog.
she really is. She is like now. Yeah. Sometimes though, she just wants to kill me too. So I don't even understand it because she's a little crazy. But I remember getting that call and Marty saying, I got dinged up a little bit. And I was like, dinged up a little bit. Like that's like huge because I knew right then and there, he was trying to lessen the blow.
Yep.
And and he sounded loopy. So he was on the morphine, right? He's on morphine and the doctor gets on the phone and says, hey, your husband might not make it through this surgery. I just want you to know that he might not come out of this. There's a good chance that he won't. He has a ton of shrapnel and he lost his right eye.
Okay.
We're going to try to save his left eye, but there's shrapnel in the brain and we got to go in. And it was in Bagram, actually. It was invasive surgery. And actually, General Tony Thomas. Did you know Tony Thomas?
I didn't know. Yeah. I knew who he was.
He actually was in Bagram. He was actually in Bagram and went to see my husband at that time. That was pretty cool of him to see him. But Marty went through, it was tough. You go from being like the guy that everybody would ask questions to, like, hey, Marty, how do you do this? How do you do that? He's a great shooter.
Sure.
He's an expert diver. He's a master diver. He's a Delta guy. He's got all these street cred, right?
Was he SFODD? Was he Delta? Was he detachment at that time? Like when he was injured, was he detachment?
No, he was not detachment.
Wow.
So they have rolled back Marty's cover. So he worked as a contractor afterwards.
Okay. Gotcha.
So,
yep.
So this, so it was a really intense time because Marty was the first to ever be fully like long-term disability wounded with the group. So they didn't even know how to handle that because it was either you were dead or you had, smaller injuries or injuries that you could kind of work with. Marty was like, holy shit, he's been blinded.
Wow.
Like he's never going to see again. And that was really tough. The tough part was he thought maybe he had a chance. They flew him, of course, back to the US.
Of course.
We went to Walter Reed. We went through extensive, rehab. But when he first got to Walter Reed, we still weren't sure if he would see again or not. And I remember I was telling somebody this. Tiffany Smiley, Scotty Smiley wrote a book called Hope Unseen. And his wife, Tiffany Smiley, actually ran for the Senate in Washington State. And she did really great. She almost beat Patty Murray. But Tiffany's husband also was blinded in Afghanistan, Scotty. And my husband actually knew him in Iraq when they were together before they were both
no way.
blinded.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And so it's like all these weird circumstances. Well, anyways, when we got to Walter Reed, Marty, that's my Chihuahua again. Sorry, guys. That's why we're on a podcast, because
And
we're
that's
going to have interruptions, right?
Don't
We're
worry
gonna have
about it.
interruptions. But the thing is that I remember the doctor telling me at one point and coming to me and saying, Marty's he said, Marty's never going to see again. Not probably. He said, your husband will never see again. He has completely lost his eyesight. This is going to be a very traumatic moment. We got to go in and we've got to let him know. And he said, this is not going to be easy, but we got to do it now. And he said, but Scotty Smiley, I don't know if you know who he is.
I know the name. I've never.
Yeah, the doctor said that to me. He said, I don't know if you know who he is. He had come in yesterday and he left all these books that he had just written. And he said, if anybody had been injured the way he was, he wanted to make sure that their family got his book.
Wow, that's a coincidence. Wow. I know.
And I didn't at the moment put two and two together, because I was and I remember I had tried getting Scotty on Fox and Friends and stuff. And I put them in touch with the right people and everything when he first got wounded, because he was the first guy that stayed in the Army blind. Like he was still working blind.
I remember. I remember that was a huge story. I mean, that huge motivator for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And so I got the book and I was just like, my heart was just breaking for Marty. You know, I wasn't even thinking about me. I was just thinking like, how is he going to take this? And he was so amazing. He was so brave. He took it and he said, well, doc, there's nothing I can change, right? And he said, nope. And he goes, okay. Then where do I go from here?
Drive on.
Where do we go from here? Let's drive on.
Forward.
Let's keep moving forward. Yeah. The only time, and I think Marty will probably won't mind if I say this, because I know he loves to.
Just tell him Tonto wanted to know, and I pushed him to it, and we'll fight. We'll Rochambeau for it later.
Yeah, exactly. Right? We'll do some fun stuff at the end. More uplifting, uplifting. But I remember the only time I ever saw Marty really cry, like it really hit him. And I've never seen this man really cry. I haven't really seen him cry. He's so strong for everyone. And that's why you say I try to be there for him. You know, he always tells me, and I say it to him, whenever we get pissed off at each other, just like any couples, you know, we get tired of each other, we get mad, we say things we don't mean. But the one thing we go back to is like, what are the things that made us love each other? You know what I mean? We try to think of the things. I always think of the things so even if he annoys me, which he does sometimes, and he knows that, I go back to like why I love him, you know, because he is an awesome human being. And then he does that with me. And so we keep moving forward together because we love each other and we love our country and we want to do the best for our children. But I remember being in the hospital that one day this is so people can understand that people aren't just numbers, right? Chris, right? Mm-hmm. Scotto. Yep. We're like more than that. Marty's young son, Luke, you know, was young. He was 5. Wow. You know, when Marty was blinded, and Luke and I are like super close. Luke is 17 now and he's gorgeous, you know, 6'1", you know, I can't believe it, you know, but I remember when Marty realized he'd never be able to play baseball with him again.
Mm. Wow.
Or see his face, you know, or even the older kids, or like, that was like a gut-wrenching moment for me too, because it's like such a huge price to pay, right? You could lose your life. That's huge. I mean, Marty still has a life and it's awesome. And, you know, Luke just got a car and we could talk about his girlfriend and I can describe everything. And, you know, but it was like the kids, all of a sudden it was like, I'm not going to be able, it was when the realization hit that, oh shit, I'm never going to drive that Corvette I bought, you know, around again. I'm never going to be able to see a baseball game or, you know, watch my son grow up the same way, or see our daughter, you know, I got pregnant after he was blinded with Annalise, and she's 10 now and he's never really seen her face.